Welcome. Just when you thought you had heard and seen everything in the WNBA, not so fast. Last night on USA Network, Megan McPeak and Hall of Famer Tamika Catchings were calling the Seattle Storm Toronto Tempo game. The conversation turned to the Washington Mystics, their very young roster, and the nickname those players have apparently chosen for themselves. And then this happened. Here's a warning. Some may find a word in this clip offensive. Roll it, Dominic.
In the W. And how about those young hoes from Washington, as they like to be called? Yes, that is what they like to be called. Thank you to Lauren Betts on that one. I'm not making it up.
Yes, you heard that correctly. Aren't you glad I gave you a warning? The young hoes from Washington, as they like to be called. And believe me, that last part, as they like to be called, was doing a lot of heavy lifting. Now, Megan McPeak did not make up the nickname. The Mystics have the youngest roster in the league. The younger players initially called themselves Young and Turnt, but according to Aaliyah Edwards, they decided to take it to another level. That's a level, all right. So now they call themselves the Young Hoes. Apparently, there are old hoes too. I didn't realize the Washington Mystics had an entire organizational depth chart for this, but apparently they do. The players have embraced it. Fans use it. It's all over social media. That's fine. What you call yourselves inside your locker room is your business. But this wasn't inside the locker room. This was a national television broadcast. And I'm sorry, something has to go off in your head as an announcer before you say that on the air, right? A little alarm, a flashing light, maybe a producer in your ear saying, Megan, don't even think about it. Either don't use the nickname at all or warn the audience that the players have adopted a term that some viewers may find offensive. You cannot just drop the young hoes from Washington into the middle of a basketball broadcast like you're talking about their transition defense. Who do they think is watching these games? Huh? What if a mom or dad are sitting there watching with their 8-year-old daughter? Mommy, what's a hoe? Well, now the parents have to stop watching the game and begin a conversation they never expected to have during the third quarter. And no, sweetheart, we're not talking about a garden tool. I know how this sounds. I'm officially the older person saying, what is happening? Who's the adult in the room, or at least on the broadcast? But there is still supposed to be a difference between how players talk to one another in a locker room, what people say on TikTok, and what an announcer says during a nationally televised sporting event. And adding, as they like to be called, doesn't magically make everything broadcast appropriate. If a team gives itself a nickname you can't comfortably explain to a 9-year-old, well then, ding, 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 don't proceed to share it to a national TV audience. So congratulations, though, to the Washington Mystics. They are young, they are energetic, they are fearless, and they are headed to the playoffs. But on national television, can we please just call them the Mystics? I know how I sound, antiquated to some, smart to others. What's your take? Has the WNBA gone off the rails? Put your comments in the chat box. Oh, speaking of the WNBA, Chicago Sky owner Michael Alter has banned Enes Kanter Freedom indefinitely from the arena where the Sky play. And I'm sorry, but this is ridiculous when I heard this. Not just the ban, the completely one-sided way Michael Alter is describing what happened that night last Sunday. Let's remember how that whole thing started. Natasha Cloud walked toward Enes Kanter Freedom during a timeout, began shouting at him. She continued pointing and yelling while teammates and security held her back. Freedom stood up, opened his arms, and stepped toward the court. Security immediately stopped him. Freedom says he never actually stepped onto the court, and Michael Alter himself admits he doesn't know whether he did. But somehow, Kanter Freedman is the threat. Alter said Freedom has demonstrated unequivocally that he has the potential to be a threat. Unequivocally? Based on what? Standing up when a pro basketball player is walking toward him and yelling at him? Alter even acknowledged that Cloud, she was part of the confrontation. His exact words, yes, she was. But was Cloud disciplined? No. Were her actions even considered a violation? Apparently not. Cantor Freedom is banned from the building indefinitely, while Cloud is treated as though she played no meaningful role in any of this. And then it somehow got even more absurd, if that could be possible. Cantor Friedman asked why he wasn't at least given a warning before he was thrown out. Michael Alter responded by comparing it to someone shooting a gun. He said, quote, when you shoot a gun at someone, you don't get a warning. Don't do that again. What? Enes Kanter Freedom stood up from his courtside seat after Natasha Cloud came toward him yelling, and Michael Alter's analogy is someone shooting a gun? Even Alter called it an extreme example. Extreme? It's not just extreme, it's completely detached from what actually happened. Nobody had a weapon. Nobody threw a punch. Nobody touched anyone. Security stepped in to escort Freedom out of the building. Cantor Friedman entered that arena wearing a shirt that read, woman, noun, adult, human, female. He had publicly was there to support his friend Sophie Cunningham's position on protecting women's sports. Well, Cantor Friedman believes he was thrown out for supporting women. Michael Alter says Freedom cannot return until he proves that he can follow the rules and is no longer a potential threat. Well, I got a question. How exactly does he prove that? And why is the entire burden on him when Cloud approached him, yelled at him, and had to be restrained? To me, Cantor Friedman did nothing that justified an indefinite ban. Give him a warning, move his seat, tell him he can't approach the court. That's all fine. But don't ban him indefinitely, ignore Natasha Cloud's role, and then compare his actions to someone firing a gun. That is not player safety. That's an out-of-control, one-sided response from an owner who appears more interested in portraying Enes Kanter Friedman as dangerous than honestly addressing what happened right in front of him. Speaking of that Fever Sky game, here's some positives news from it. Caitlin Clark, she scored those 37 points, 8 3-pointers, Fever win. That game averaged 3.31 million viewers on NBC and Peacock. It peaked at 3.82 million. That made it the most watched WNBA regular season game since 1997, the inaugural season of the league, and the third most watched regular season game in WNBA history. Not since 1997 have they gotten that numbers. Clinton was president, Titanic was not even released yet, and I had big shoulder pads in my blazer to go along with my big hair when I hosted SportsCenter back then. And there was Caitlin Clark giving the millions, the viewers, what they exactly wanted. The audience has spoken. NBC, record numbers. CBS, record numbers. ESPN, the largest WNBA audience ever on cable. Prime Video, its most watched WNBA game. ION and USA Network, more record audiences when Caitlin and the Fever show up. Practically every network carrying the WNBA has experienced the Caitlin Clark effect. And when the record isn't being broken this season, it's usually because Caitlin Clark already broke it last season. And yet somehow women's basketball continues to find creative ways to promote everybody around Caitlin Clark while pretending she isn't standing right there. On Wednesday, March Madness put out a social media post celebrating former college stars now succeeding in the WNBA, and Caitlin Clark was nowhere to be found. So you're telling me the all-time leading scorer in Division I NCAA college basketball, the woman who owns more records than every player in that promo combined, the woman who helped take the popularity of March Madness to an incredibly new, different level, you couldn't find room for her in your small-minded promo post? What? Was the graphic full? I mean, I've made this point before, and apparently it needs to be made again. You don't promote other stars instead of Caitlin Clark. You promote them through Caitlin Clark. Let me explain again. That's what the NBA understood with Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Michael Jordan. The league didn't say, well, Magic and Larry Bird and MJ are getting too much attention, so you know what? Let's hide them and just promote other players. That will be a path to success. Caitlin Clark brings people through the front door. Once they're watching, they see the greatness of Asia Wilson, Paige Beckers, Angel Reese, Olivia Miles, and all the other terrific players in this league and how well they're doing. There is enough room for everybody. But you don't grow those stars by hiding the person who brought the audience. This isn't about whether Caitlin Clark is the only great player. She isn't. It isn't about whether every post must feature her. Of course not. It's about recognizing a generational opportunity when it lands directly in your lap. The fans made this decision. The audience made this decision. Every time Caitlin Clark plays, millions of people make that same decision. They watch. So stop fighting it. Stop behaving as if promoting her is unfair to everybody else. This line of thinking continues to be found among only small-minded people. Here's a question. What's the NFL going to do about Jed York? Yes, the 49ers owner. Because the legal case is already over, but for Roger Goodell, this is just beginning. The 49ers owner was arrested Sunday morning in East Palestine, Ohio, after police say he responded to a fake online prostitution ad posted by an undercover human trafficking task force. According to police, York used the name Joe, agreed to pay $160 for 1 hour, and then drove to the meeting spot with the money at the cell phone he had used to arrange it. Instead, police were waiting for him. And now we have the body cam video to prove it. Roll it, Dominic.
Your hands. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Don't move. Don't do anything. Unbuckle slowly. Slowly. Do it. Step out of the car. Put your hands on the car.
Can you ask what you're doing?
Spread your feet for me.
Can I ask what you're doing?
What are you doing here?
I'm just driving.
You meeting anybody?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Is he meeting anybody? No. York, handcuffed, initially denies that he was there to meet anybody. And then the officers discover that the man they just arrested is the billionaire owner of the San Francisco 49ers. He was taken to jail, released on $5,000 bond, and the whole thing was resolved the very next day. The prostitution charge was reduced to disorderly conduct. York also faced a charge of possessing criminal tools, and in this case, that criminal tool was his cell phone. York pleaded no contest to both misdemeanors, paid $1,150 in fines, forfeited the $160, received credit for the 1 day he had already spent in jail. So legally, the whole thing's over. The 49ers released a statement basically saying exactly that. This is a legal matter. It has been resolved, and they won't be commenting. Okay, it may be resolved for the 49ers, but it shouldn't be resolved for the National Football League because the NFL's personal conduct policy applies to owners, and we've been told that owners are supposed to be held to an even higher standard. Remember Jim Irsay? The Colts owner pleaded guilty to impaired driving in 2014 after police found prescription drugs and more than $29,000 in cash in his vehicle. The NFL suspended him for 6 games, fined him $500,000, completely separated him from the Colts during the suspension. Then there was Robert Kraft, the Patriots owner, charged with 2 counts of soliciting prostitution in 2019, but the video evidence was thrown out because it had been obtained illegally. The charges were eventually dropped. Kraft was never convicted. The NFL did nothing. But Jed York's case didn't get thrown out. The charges didn't disappear. He pleaded no contest and was convicted of 2 misdemeanors. So what does Roger Goodell do now? If you believe owners should be held to a higher standard, prove it. You don't get to spend years disciplining players for conduct that damages the reputation of the league and then suddenly become very quiet when the person in trouble owns the team. Maybe Goodell suspends York, maybe fines him, maybe he bans him from activities with the team. But doing nothing? I don't know how the NFL explains that. Robert Kraft is not the precedent here. Jim Irsay is much closer to it. And if 6 games and $500,000 was appropriate for Irsay after a misdemeanor conviction, then Jed York cannot simply pay his fine, release a 2-sentence statement, and head right back to the owner's box. The NFL always talks about, how many times do we hear it? Protect the shield. Well, Roger, one of your owners just put a pretty big dent in that shield. What are you going to do about it? What do you think Roger Goodell should do regarding punishment for Jed York? Want to hear from you. Leave your comments in the chat box. All right, just in time for the college football season, ESPN is getting rid of the bottom line ticker during its college football broadcast this season. That's why Dom didn't have the ticker for our show today on Honor of ESPN. You know, the bottom line, the scores, news, and updates that have lived at the bottom of the screen for more than 30 years. It will be removed during live game action across ABC, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU, ESPN News, ACC Network, SEC Network. ESPN says the idea is to create a cleaner presentation. Keep the focus on where it belongs, on the field. And I have to admit, when I heard this, I laughed about it. Why? Because I have a little history with the bottom line. I was at ESPN when it was introduced back in 1995. First on ESPN2 before eventually it spread across ESPN and onto SportsCenter. And when they decided to put that ticker at the bottom of SportsCenter, many of us SportsCenter anchors, we were up in arms. Remember, we wrote our own shows. We put a lot of time and effort into those on-camera lead-ins. This information, the setup, and hopefully a clever line or two. Then suddenly, while we're talking, scores and breaking news were moving at the bottom of the screen. That's a distraction. You're not going to pay attention to us. We were upset. They're all going to stare at the ticker at the bottom of the screen. We complained. We made our case. And spoiler alert, we did not win our case. The bottom line stayed. It became part of ESPN's identity. And eventually, hey, it changed the way sports TV looked everywhere. Everybody was copying it. Now, more than 30 years later, how about that? ESPN is removing it from its college football broadcast because, wait for it, it can be distracting. So apparently, we SportsCenter anchors were right way back then. It just took ESPN a few decades to admit it. What do you think about this decision? A lot of people love it. They say the screen has become too cluttered between the score bug, play clock, down and distance, stats, promos, graphics, betting angles. Everything else is on the screen than actual football. Those fans just want to watch the game they turned on, not read about 7 other games at the same time. People who record several games are especially happy because the bottom line can spoil another result before they get a chance to watch it. And then there's the most common argument about it. If you want another score, check your phone. Fair enough. Every score in every sport is available within seconds nowadays. The bottom line is no longer the only or even the fastest way to find information. But here's the other side. Do we really need one more reason to look at our phones? Hey, preaching to the choir. That's me. You pick up your phone, you check the Alabama score. Next thing you know, you miss the entire third quarter because something on your phone, which wasn't football, distracted you and kept you on your phone scrolling. So there's sides both ways to the argument. I mean, college football, though, is also different from most sports. On a Saturday, games are happening everywhere all day long, hundreds of them. That ticker helped you feel connected to the entire sport. You'd be watching one game and suddenly the words upset alert would pop up on the screen. Top team was in trouble. And then you went looking for that other game. Where is it? What channel? There was something fun about seeing that score and then how you would react. You realize a huge favorite was losing in the fourth quarter and suddenly everybody in the room was reaching for that remote. That was part of the college football Saturday experience. Some fans, though, are also suspicious of ESPN's motivation. Their theory is that if ESPN stops showing scores from games on competing networks, maybe viewers will be less likely to discover a better game or change the channel. I don't buy that. That's been around forever. Hey, let's be honest. ESPN isn't exactly leading a TV revolution here. Not here, not now. NBC and CBS have already presented college football games without a permanent full-width ticker. Fox removed its traditional ticker, the last couple of years. ESPN, they removed the bottom line from college football playoff games. They've done that already. They did it from NBA and NHL postseason games. No bottom line. So ESPN is not in front of us. They're catching up, actually. And maybe there's a reasonable compromise. How about this idea, guys? ESPN and these other networks can show an occasional score update or upset alert when something really important is happening. We don't need the score of every baseball game permanently situated at the bottom of the screen while we're trying to watch college football. The bottom line may be going away, and that's probably progress in how the industry is changing. But just don't take the pulse of college football Saturday away from it. What do you think? Do you like the bottom line? Are you happy that it's going away? Let me know. All right. Who's coming and joining the show? Let's get at it. Surprise.
Hello.
It's Dan. My son Dan has made it from his journey. We were concerned, Dan. You were there.
I was too. There's a tree in the middle of Route 84, but I'm here. We made it. Got to thank the police and everyone else responsible to make sure I could be here today.
Okay, great. Wow, amazing. Police escort. We'll leave it there. All right, Dan, I just talked about, and welcome to the show. I just talked about, you grew up with the bottom line ticker because it's been around for like 30 years and you're 30. So what's your take on this now that it's going to disappear during college football on ESPN? And we've seen it on other networks go bye-bye too.
Like most people, when I saw the news, I was a little bummed. This is something you grow up with. I hate change. I've noticed as the older I get, I realize change is just not for me. We'll see how it progresses. Again, I'm always on my phone to begin with, just because, again, gambling, everything. I understand ESPN's take. Like, people who are watching the game, they want to watch it. And a lot of people I know, they have 5 to 7 TVs going on one time.
Right.
And they're really not looking at that score. So I think early on people are going to complain, but I think ESPN's making this decision for a reason, and they have to have resources out there that are telling them this is the move.
Yeah. All right. The NFL, as you know, Dan, big news the other day. They announced no more Pro Bowl. I'll be honest with you. I thought it was already disappeared because no one watches it. Dan, give me your take on, now they're going to honor Pro Bowl players. You, as the host here of Fourth and Dan, what do you think about the NFL getting rid of the Pro Bowl?
It's about time. I try to support it for a long time, even the Pro Bowl games, but after 10 minutes, people tune off, including me. Thankfully, we won't have to hear the Pro Bowl accolade as a real, well, now it's going to mean something, right?
Yeah.
So much we've heard Shedeur.
Let's talk about that. We've had this discussion, Dan, me and you, about, because, players get extra bonuses in their contract for being a Pro Bowl player. And sometimes they end up being just substitutes, right? It's just ridiculous. And it doesn't have the, I don't know what the word is. It just doesn't seem as important or significant as other individual honors that NFL players get.
Exactly. Like, we have to remember some of these Pro Bowl quarterbacks: Shedeur Sanders, Snoop Huntley, love him though. VY, Vince Young, he was a 2-time Pro Bowler as a replacement. These are not throwing shade on these guys, but the issue is fans will be like, oh, well, this guy's a 5-time Pro Bowl quarterback, but okay, he was a 6-time replacement. It's time. It's unfortunately, football is a dangerous sport. The All-Star game doesn't really work. And, it was a great move by the NFL, and they're still going to honor your Pro Bowl selection, which is awesome. The players have spoken. They don't want to be there.
Yeah, they don't want it. And you know what? Fans have spoken. They don't want it either. All right. You're here because you give us the goods, you give us the intel on fantasy and betting. So what would you like to start with first, fantasy or betting?
Let's do betting. I think that's what everyone's mind is always on, trying to make more money. For going NFL, I'm jumping straight to week 1. I like a 2-game parlay here. I'm taking Houston at home versus Buffalo, money line. Again, Josh Allen's a dog, insane quarterback. But at the end of the day, this Texans defense, not much has changed. CJ Stroud has something to prove. He looked awful last year, a shell of himself. I know this guy's working harder than anyone on that team, and I think he's going to shock a lot of people. And they beat him last year at home. If this game was in Buffalo, that'd be another story. I think I'd be swinging Buffalo's way just with that noise, top 3 fan base in the NFL. But I got to go there. And then I'm parlaying that with Miami, and I have them beating the Raiders week 1. These are 2 teams that have a lot of issues. This game is being played in Vegas, which is honestly going to help Miami. Vegas doesn't really have a lot of fans. Look up the stats. Vegas was third to last in attendance last year. They do not have fans. This game's not in Oakland. I wouldn't be shocked to see Kirk Cousins struggle. Geno Smith struggled. And I don't think Geno is necessarily a bad quarterback. I just think there are a lot of holes.
Why do you think Kirk Cousins is going to struggle as a starting quarterback of the Raiders against a Dolphins team where, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think their defense is in the top 10?
I was very disappointed in Kirk Cousins' play last year. I don't know how many people were watching Atlanta Falcons football. I was. Michael Penix was playing better football than him. And I don't think Michael Penix was playing good outside of throwing the ball to Drake London. And it's just something, they're plus 145 last time I checked. It's really a toss-up, right?
Yeah.
But again, This is a new system for Kirk. Kirk's a shell of himself, just because I think going through injuries, Malik Willis can extend plays. And like what we talk about, being able to extend plays makes you a better quarterback. And the Dolphins receivers, they all run under 4'5", 40. Malik's going to be able to extend plays. We saw how accurate he's been in Green Bay with his limited time.
Yeah.
I think he's going to shock a lot of people. And what better way to shock people against an awful team?
Yeah. Okay. What about your fantasy?
Yeah, I always see early on. I've already had a couple drafts, unfortunately. I try to get them in September, but I had friends who aren't about it. But unless you have Josh Allen available, ready, and he's in good position in like the second round, you should be drafting a quarterback. I saw someone pick Joe Burrow in the first round in my draft yesterday, and it was just very concerning. You need to wait. The value of Patrick Mahomes, there was a report that just came out with Ian Rappaport where he was shocked to see how good Mahomes has looked. I would take someone like Dak or Mahomes where the ADP is in between 80 and 110. We know how good Mahomes is going to be. Dak, again, he was the best quarterback in football just 2 years ago when Lamar won that second MVP when he shouldn't have. These are guys you can wait, stack up on receivers and running backs who are probably going to get injured, and then get your quarterback.
That's good. Yeah.
And I just think Mahomes is going to ball out, and I think he's going to be healthier and looking good a lot earlier than people think.
Fantastic. All right, Dan. Well done. Tight. Good takes, and then good tips. Takes and tips. Fourth and Dan. My son, Dan Kaufman.
Hey,
all right. Glad you made it safely. Oh, Dom's here.
Dom is here.
Dan, I have to chime in. The chat. There's a Raiders fan in the chat, and he's trashing.
All right, do it.
No.
He is trashing Geno Smith, MD.
That's my dude. That's my
MDD,
dude.
90. He's my dude too now. I'd rather have Stevie Wonder at QB than Geno Smith. We might have a better chance. Dan, defend Geno here real quick.
I won't defend Geno in the red zone. Maybe that's what he's seeing. But I think when times are bad, times are bad. I think with Geno, again, he had all those good years in Seattle. He looks better than ever. I follow Geno Smith on Instagram. I'm seeing the work he's putting in. I'm liking every single Instagram post. I know he sees it. And I just think he's going to ball out. Oh, again, in Vegas, it wasn't a good fit. I think and that's what happens. It's like relationships. Sometimes you're not going to be a perfect puzzle piece match for someone. But I think Geno's going to ball out in New York. And unfortunately for the Raiders, one of the most iconic franchises in NFL history, but they're probably most likely going to lose week 1.
All right.
They have no O-line either. That was the big issue, I think. You know?
Yeah, it's sad. Anyway, I know. I want our guy Fernando Mendoza in there, but maybe for his safety, keep him out a few weeks. We'll see. I don't know, but I don't think it's going to change. I made a point. It's not like the offensive line is going to change from opening week to week 4, guys. Yeah. So I feel like since that's the case, you might as well put the kid in there. That's how I feel. Maybe we'll see. Well, but knowing the safe decision Clint Kubiak is probably going to make, he's going to probably start with Cousins for the first 2 games, see how it goes. But if they start 0-3, bye-bye, Kirk. Sit down.
To be honest, I think Kirk has a pretty decent chance because he came off that Achilles injury, and usually that takes a full year and more than to get fully recuperated from that. Aaron Rodgers started gaining a little bit more momentum after like the Achilles injury at like nearing the end of the Jets season. I think Kirk can kind of do the same, and maybe as long as he's protected, which we don't know, but
that's a big if.
Yeah, he'll definitely need time. You don't see too many statues at quarterback these days, and I think when they do go to Mendoza, it's because what he can bring with his legs, buying time with a bad offensive line. being able to make plays. Kirk, if there's someone coming at him, he's unfortunately going to fall to the ground because, he's an older gentleman.
That's a very nice way to put it, Dan. Yeah. Very nice way. Nice manners out of you. Very respect for your elders. Love that.
Connecticut education.
I raised you well.
We're up.
All right.
All right, Dan. Excellent stuff. Dom, thanks for chiming in there. Stick around, Dom. Yeah. Dan, safe travels wherever you are. Glad
I appreciate that. Appreciate that. I got to make trivia at 7, so we'll see what happens. So.
All right.
All right. I'm taking your bets, Dan. That parlay is going to happen.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good. If you get in trouble and lose money, you didn't hear from me.
I'm blaming you.
Oh, good stuff. Glad he made it. Yeah, that was great. All right, Dom, that was fun. Glad you chimed in on that. We love when the people talk and they have a question for Dan and you chimed in there with that.
Yeah, cool. When I saw Gino's name, I was like, we got to address this.
Yeah. No, Dan is convinced Gino is going to rock as a Jet for part 2, the sequel.
I'm hoping. Fingers crossed. I know. It's a comeback player of the year.
There it is. I think he won that once before. By the way, he won that once before. Geno Smith won comeback player of the year already.
Why not make it twice?
Yeah.
Why not make it twice?
All right.
We only have one good question this week, Linda, or today for today's episode. So I will put this up. He meant Lane Kiffin, but he spelled it wrong. But shout out to Brian here in Vegas. He asked, will Lane Kiffin ever have ethics? Yeah, what do you think of Lane Kiffin and what he's been doing here with all this?
Wow. I'll tell you, I've heard every adjective to describe Lane Kiffin. Con man comes up a lot, scammer comes up a lot, fraud comes up a lot, all the above. How do I feel? Listen, you can't knock it. I mean, you can't let's put it this way. The guy has knowledge about football and coaching. So you can't knock that part of what he does. It's the way he gets these positions, his journey. If you really do a deep dive on how he's gotten every position, it's head shaking. That's why he's been called fraud. That's why he's been called a scam artist, different types of things. And now he's like in it. He's in it with the weeds. He loves this whole thing about, now he's head of coaching LSU, and he loves the fact they can go after these players that are, cut from NFL teams. But now he's in a holding pattern because the SEC and the Big Ten have spoken. And so he thought he was going to get, Daquan right, and not right, and not so fast. Yeah. So we'll have to see. So he tries to bend the rules. That's a nice way of saying it. But I don't know. I'm not a big super fan. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. When he went to, when it was the Oakland Raiders, he was the hot ticket, it felt like. And
Al Davis loved him. Al Davis saw him and, his, Ken, Barbie wife, very LA, very California, right? Remember the whole thing? And Al Davis was drooling like, oh, that's the guy I want coaching my team. It was a disaster. And then when he was fired, Al Davis, some of those words I used were the G-rated version of the words that Al Davis used to describe Lane Kiffin as he walked out the door.
I couldn't fathom Al Davis using any cuss words. He seemed like a good gentleman.
Right. Exactly.
All right.
I do want to throw it. I do want to say this, although I told Don we don't need the picture, but I do want to remember last show I talked about Caitlin Clark and Taylor Swift and they have so much in common. And then I saw, it's so great. Caitlin Clark, one of her editions of her new shoe, has friendship bracelets as shoelaces in this edition of the Caitlin Clark shoe in honor of Taylor Swift. I'm like, I might have a crystal ball in my back pocket. So yeah, I thought that was really cool. And I have to get, that's the shoe I want because I'm a Swiftie and I'm a fan of Caitlin Clark, and it brings both of them together with shoes. So I got to work on that, and I'll buy it. I'll pay it. I'll open the wallet. If I open the wallet for Eras Tour twice and everything else, I could do it for a pair of Caitlin Clark shoes with friendship bracelets as shoelaces. All right. That's a show. Thank you guys. Appreciate all the support. Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends about the Linda Cohn Show. I was off and running at the start of the show. I couldn't believe it. Every day we get new material from the WNBA, but I will keep, just sharing what I think you guys need to hear. And that's important to me. And I'm glad you feel it's important as well. So thanks for joining me. I appreciate you tuning in. Like and subscribe. And listen, have a great weekend. Have a great night. All right. Enjoy the preseason football, final week of it. We're getting closer to the real deal in a couple of weeks. Thanks again for joining me. Have a great one.